to the camp. The time came to move on to our next spot, and there was quite a big sea, a very big sea indeed. But after some storm conditions, and the wind had dropped, and it was still, but the sea was in enormous swell, huge swell of maybe 20 feet or more.
Good gracious!
And we thought that would be okay, and we set off, launched successfully, got the engine going, and were popping our way along some distance offshore when became aware of here and there giant waves breaking, which was no doubt the depth of this swell exposing the trough of the swell, exposing rocks, and then precipitating a wave which came crashing down, and sort of wondering, hoping that we wouldn't find ourselves in one of those, when suddenly we were, and our boat was tilted forward at an angle of, 20 degrees, and this huge towering wall of foam and rushing water behind us, and the boat was swept forward just, and eventually the swell evened out, and we found ourselves swamped nearly to the gunwales, and the engine, of course, cut out, and Atkinson set to frantic bailing, and we got our oars out, which were really very little use, to try and pull ourselves away from that spot. And I set to work with the engine, full of foreboding. But the fates were with us, and the engine miraculously started on the second or third pull.
Oh, good.
And we headed out to sea to give the coast a wide berth. And I think, chastened by the whole experience, we decided that the other stop-off points which were planned for this sort of follow-up checking activity would have to go by the board, and we just simply returned to base, heading north to the north point of the island, and then back south down the Fallen Sound.
Gosh, I can't think how you.
It was a near swim. So of course, it's quite possible that no further wave broke over that particular reef, because it just required the coincidence of the rock and the trough of the swell. But all the same, it was a sobering experience.
Yes, it must have been.
Eventually, the time came for us to leave, and the someone came to collect us, either the governor's yacht or the mining cutter, and we went to Longyearbyen, and eventually found ourselves on the ship heading for Norway.
Oh, gracious.
Now began the next episode, which was that in Spitsbergen at the same time as us, and doing work on the main island, was a party of geologists from Birmingham University. About, I think, 4 or 5, or certainly no more than 6. And they had chartered a boat to take them to Spitsbergen and no doubt deliver them to where they wanted to be, and then take them home again afterwards. And the boat in question, as we later discovered, learned, had been a wartime patrol vessel, high-speed patrol vessel. I think they were called E-boats, I think, which were high-speed, fitted with 3 2,000 horsepower petrol engines to make dashes across the North Sea to Sweden to pick up ball bearings and other stuff required for the war effort. Now this boat, the engines have been switched to 3 100 horsepower diesel engines, and the boat was skippered and possibly owned by a Lieutenant R.N. retired. And we got on very well with the Birmingham party as fellow expeditioners, and quite jolly the friendship developed, and they invited us to join them on the journey south. Oh, I've neglected to explain that on their outward journey, when they reached Tromsø, they whether they had to report to Tromsø before heading north or whatever, I don't know, but the effect was that the Norwegian authorities told them they could not proceed into high Arctic waters because the vessel was not adjudged able to withstand ice or other conditions, so the boat had to remain in Tromsø. With the result that the poor old Birmingham party, instead of having a shore-to-shore operation, had to take the coal ship to Spitsbergen and rely on the charity of the governor or the mining company to get them to where they wanted to go, or maybe they could go overland. I don't know. So we joined the party, and very soon, after getting on board, we set off. The crew of this boat, there was only the captain and 2 others, and the engineer, rather amazingly, was the director of Ferranti. The company was produced wireless equipment and electrical equipment, and quite why he was or how he'd come to be there, I don't know, but I understood that it was a desire for adventure and perhaps a break from his humdrum life as a director of Ferranti. And the other was a lad of about our own age, who had simply idly looking round or wandering round the docks in Liverpool, where the boat was berthed waiting for the Birmingham party, had asked if there's any chance of joining the crew, and they'd welcomed him on board. So we set off in our little vessel. Another point, they're not getting this, they're not organised enough, but the other thing that happened, that when the boat was crossing the North Sea on the way to Norway, there's been something had gone wrong with the central of the 3 engines of the ship, of the boat, and it was ceased to function. So they had proceeded on 2 of the 3 engines, which may have probably been one of the contributory factors to the Norwegians decided they couldn't go any further. So we proceeded south on 2 engines, obviously as a somewhat reduced speed, and heading for a port to the south.